Claire stopped so hard at the turn into B-level parking that her travel mug tipped into the passenger seat. Vivian's champagne-colored Lexus was halfway into space B-17, Claire's number disappearing beneath its rear tires. Daniel stood beside the concrete pillar, waving his mother back as if he worked airport ground control. When Claire lowered her window, Vivian smiled and held up the black garage pass. Daniel's brass home tag dangled from the same ring. "Perfect timing," Daniel said. "Mom needs the closer space this week. You can use hourly." Then he walked over and slipped a folded garage invoice through Claire's window. "Also, she got charged downstairs yesterday, $312. Just pay it from the house account." Claire looked from the invoice to the ring in Vivian's hand. Daniel never let anyone touch that key ring. "Why does your mother have your pass?" A horn barked behind her. Mr. Feldman from 5A leaned out of his truck and shouted, "Family conference somewhere else, please." Daniel slapped the roof of Claire's car twice. "Go around, we'll talk upstairs." Vivian finished backing in. Claire went around. The hourly entrance was one level below, past a striped arm and a blue sign listing rates in cheerful white numbers. The first hour cost $6. After 8 hours, the garage charged $48. Lost tickets cost $75, a price Claire had always considered so ridiculous that she kept parking stubs in her wallet for weeks. She pressed the button. The machine gave her a ticket warm from the printer. Her assigned space was 12 steps from the residential elevator. From the hourly section, she had to cross a painted pedestrian lane, pass the trash room, take one elevator to the lobby, and use her resident fob for the second. It was inconvenient, not impossible, which Claire knew would become Daniel's entire argument. Upstairs, she found Vivian's canvas grocery tote sitting on the kitchen island. It was filled with mail, a tape measure, 2 rolls of shelf liner, and a framed photograph wrapped in a dish towel. Vivian emerged from the guest room carrying a box labeled "Winter Shoes." "You're storing things here now?" Claire asked. "Temporarily." Vivian set the box neatly against the wall. "Daniel said you weren't using half that closet." Daniel came in behind her with another box. "She has to be out of the rental by the end of the month." "What rental?" "The storage place on Franklin. They raised her rate." Claire stared at him. "So where are the boxes going?" "Some here, some in our locker." Their condominium locker was 5 feet wide and already held Claire's folding bike, 2 suitcases, a vacuum, holiday decorations, and 6 banker's boxes of tax records. Daniel had once described putting 1 additional dining chair in it as a game of structural Tetris. Claire unfolded the invoice. It came from Harbor Center Garage, the mixed-use garage beneath their building. Vivian's license plate was printed beneath a line that read, "Unvalidated extended stay." The entry time was Saturday at 11:06 a.m. Exit Sunday at 2:41 p.m. "Why was your car here overnight?" Claire asked. Vivian busied herself aligning the shoe box with the baseboard. "Daniel took me to dinner. I had wine." "So you left it?" "Fine. Why am I paying?" "Because it's your building," Daniel said. Claire laughed once. She couldn't help it. "Is that really your answer?" "No, my answer is that Mom was our guest." "She was your guest." "We're married. We don't have separate guests." "Apparently, we have separate parking spaces." Vivian made a small sound through her nose, almost a chuckle. Claire had heard it before, usually when a waiter said something Vivian considered obvious. Daniel's mouth tightened. "Don't do this at 7:30 in the morning." "You put a $300 bill through my car window at 7:30 in the morning. I didn't pick when you drove in. You knew when I was coming home." "I knew roughly." Claire set the invoice on the counter. Beside it sat Daniel's coffee mug, the white ceramic one that said, "Ask me about risotto." Claire had bought it as a joke after he spent an entire dinner explaining broth absorption to their friends. Now it seemed to be smirking at her. "Move her car," Claire said. "I have a client call at 9, then I need to be in the office." Daniel shifted the box against his hip. "You said Tuesdays were home days. Today is Monday." He blinked, then looked toward the oven clock. Vivian said, "I can move it after my appointment." "What appointment?" My knee. The answer came smoothly, with just enough injury in it to make Claire feel brutish for asking. Vivian rubbed the side of her leg through cream-colored slacks. Daniel put down the box. Her physical therapist is 2 blocks away. That's why I told her to park here. She can't keep hiking from some random garage. There is an elevator in the hourly garage. She doesn't know that garage. It's underneath this garage. Claire. Her name, in Daniel's mouth, became a warning against becoming the kind of woman he was about to accuse her of being. Vivian picked up her tote. I'll move. Truly. I don't want to cause trouble. She said it while making no movement toward the door. Claire checked the time. If she argued another 10 minutes, she would have to take her client call in traffic. Move it by noon. Of course, Vivian said. Daniel caught Claire near the bedroom while she was changing her coffee-stained pants. He leaned against the doorway, already wearing the patient expression he used when explaining restaurant menus to people who had not asked. You embarrassed her. Claire stepped into gray trousers. Mr. Feldman was the only witness, and he thinks all human interaction is a fire code violation. I mean in there. She handed me your keys. She held my pass. The home tag is attached to the pass. So you don't hand that ring to anybody. You made me go back to a restaurant in a snowstorm once because you left it on the table. It means something to me. It used to mean something to me, too. Daniel looked genuinely wounded, which was one of the things he did best without trying. It still does. Then why was it in your mother's hand? Because I was carrying boxes. He said it as if that closed a door. Claire zipped her pants. How long did you tell her she could use my space? It isn't your space in the way you're saying. B17 is assigned to my unit. Our unit. My car is registered to it. Daniel pushed away from the doorway. This is exactly why I didn't bring it up last night. Everything turns into a deposition. You didn't bring it up because you wanted her car physically in the space before I could say no. For half a second, his face emptied. That was the answer. Then he sighed. She needs help for a couple of weeks. You're barely here during the day. I thought you'd be kind. Claire's phone chimed with the reminder for her call. Daniel kissed 2 fingers and touched them to her shoulder, a peace offering so habitual it felt like another household appliance. We'll talk later. At noon, the Lexus was still in B17. Claire knew because she went downstairs between calls, telling herself she was checking the mail. Vivian's canvas tote sat in the middle of the parking space behind the SUV, its handles folded over like crossed arms. The attendant at the security desk was a broad-shouldered man named Luis, who wore bright ties under his gray uniform. That day's tie had tiny yellow submarines on it. Can I ask you something? Claire said. If a resident lets a guest park in an assigned space, would the guest still get an extended stay charge? Luis looked toward the camera monitor. Depends how they entered. With a resident pass. Resident pass should open the gate, but the system tracks the credential and the plate. If they don't match, it can kick the visit to review. Can I see which pass was used? Management can pull it, not you. I can see live status. Ledger history has to come from upstairs. He tapped the desk. Privacy rule. Claire almost told him it was her unit, her space, her husband's pass. Instead, she thanked him. As she turned away, Luis said, Ms. Mercer, tell your guest not to leave objects behind the car. Canvas bag gets caught on an axle. It becomes a very expensive canvas bag. Claire carried the tote upstairs. Inside, she found more than shelf liner and mail. There was a stack of storage invoices secured with a rubber band. The top receipt showed an automatic payment from an account ending in 4408. Claire knew those 4 digits. They belonged to the household checking account. Daniel had opened it with her after the wedding. They each deposited an agreed amount every month. Mortgage and property taxes stayed in Claire's personal account because she had bought the condo 3 years before meeting him. Household checking covered groceries, utilities, repairs, dinners together, and the small domestic expenses neither of them wanted to litigate. Apparently, it also covered Vivian's storage. The most recent payment was $249. Claire put everything back exactly as she had found it, except the tote. She left that beside the entry door. Vivian returned at 1:15 carrying a white bakery box and talking on her phone. She paused when she saw Claire at the kitchen table. "I thought you were working." "I am." Vivian ended the call. "I brought almond croissants. Daniel says you like those." "I do." "They're from that French place where everyone acts irritated that you came in." "That's how you know they're authentic." Vivian smiled despite herself. For one fleeting moment, they were two women sharing the same joke instead of measuring the same piece of floor. Then Claire said, "Your car is still in my space." The therapist ran late. "You've been back for 20 minutes. I wanted to bring these up first. You brought up a bakery box. And my purse." Vivian put both on the counter. "I'm going back down." Claire slid the garage invoice toward her. "Take this with you." Vivian's face changed, not much, a tiny stiffening around the mouth. "Daniel said you would handle it." "He was wrong." "I offered to pay when it happened." "Good." "He told me absolutely not. He said you have some kind of building allowance." "There is no building allowance." "Well, that's what he called it." Claire looked at the invoice again. "Did he give you his pass Saturday?" "He said it was the spare." "It has his house keys on it." Vivian glanced toward the entry bowl. Empty except for Claire's keys and a roll of dog waste bags left by the previous owner of the console table. They did not own a dog. "He took the house keys off," Vivian said. "No, he didn't." "Then perhaps I misunderstood. You held them up this morning." Vivian opened the bakery box. 4 croissants sat in perfect rows under a dusting of sugar. "Your husband was trying to do something considerate." "For which of us?" "That depends on whether you insist there's a competition." Claire leaned back. Vivian did not raise her voice. She never needed to. She could turn any room into a reception desk and any disagreement into a visitor who had arrived without an appointment. "How long did he say you could park there?" Claire asked. "Until I get settled." "Settled where?" Vivian brushed powdered sugar from the box edge with one fingertip. "I haven't decided." Claire waited. Vivian finally met her eyes. "Daniel said the two of you had discussed letting me use the guest room for a while." The refrigerator motor clicked off, leaving the kitchen unnaturally quiet. "No," Claire said. "We haven't." Vivian's composure slipped then, only for a breath, but Claire saw it. Surprise first, followed by calculation, followed by something close to embarrassment. "Well," Vivian said, closing the bakery box, "that sounds like a conversation you should have with your husband." She picked up the invoice but left the croissants. At 3, Claire went downstairs again. B17 was empty. The canvas tote remained beside the entry door. She hung it from the knob so neither Daniel nor Vivian could pretend not to see it. Daniel came home shortly after 6. Claire heard his keys before she saw him. Metal striking the ceramic bowl, the thin, bright note of the brass tag underneath. He walked into the kitchen carrying flowers wrapped in brown paper and a bottle of wine they usually saved for company. "Peace Summit," he said. Claire looked toward the entryway. "You got your pass back." "Daniel set the flowers down. Mom said you interrogated her." "Did you tell her she could move into the guest room?" He reached for the corkscrew, then stopped. That pause was smaller than a lie and more damaging. "I told her we'd discuss it," he said. "You told me we were discussing parking." "It's all connected." "Apparently." "She's in a difficult transition. She gave up her apartment voluntarily. The rent went up. Her pension went up. Not by the same amount." Claire opened the household banking app on her phone and placed it on the counter between them. The storage payment glowed at the top of the screen. Daniel stared at it. "How long?" she asked. He rubbed the brass home tag between his thumb and forefinger. "It's temporary." "That isn't a length of time." 6 months. Claire looked at the key tag, polished bright where his fingers had worn it smooth. 6 months of payments, 6 months of hidden boxes, 6 months in which Daniel had come home, dropped home into the bowl, and let her believe the sound meant he had returned to the same place she lived. He released the tag. It struck the stone counter with a clean, familiar click. The storage was supposed to make things easier, he said. For who? Daniel looked at the garage invoice Vivian had left beside the wine. Then, very quietly, he pushed it back toward Claire. Claire put 2 fingers on the invoice and slid it back. No. Daniel looked down as if the paper had moved by itself. No what? No, I'm not paying it. No, your mother isn't moving into the guest room. No, I'm not going to keep discussing decisions you've already made and call that a conversation. You're angry. I am. You're going to feel differently after you eat. That may be the most insulting thing you've said today. He gave her a tired smile. You get lightheaded when you skip lunch. I ate one of your mother's peace croissants. See? She was trying. Claire picked up the flowers, white tulips already bending at the neck. Daniel knew she liked tulips, but he always bought white ones because Vivian said colored tulips looked artificial. She laid them back on the counter. Daniel opened the wine. Can we take the temperature down about 30 degrees? Did you tell her she could stay here? I told her it might be an option. Did you tell her she could use my parking space? I said we would make room. Did you ask me? I'm asking now. No, you're informing me now. He poured 2 glasses anyway. She's my mother, Claire. I know. You've used that sentence like a master key for 4 years. The corkscrew hit the counter. What does that mean? It means every ordinary boundary disappears when she gets near it. She needs help. Then help her. I am. With my space, my condo, and our account. There it is. He pointed at her with the wine glass. My. Claire almost answered. Then she noticed what he was doing. He had skipped past the 6 months of concealed payments and arrived at the moral failure of her pronouns. She picked up her phone. Where are you going? To the bedroom. So that's it? For tonight. Daniel set his glass down hard enough to spill a red crescent on the stone. You don't get to issue a ruling and walk away. Claire stopped in the doorway. Neither do you. She slept badly. Daniel slept on the couch, though she had not asked him to. In the morning, his folded blanket occupied the center cushion with courtroom precision. The wine remained open on the counter. So did the invoice. Claire photographed it before leaving. B17 was empty, but the canvas tote sat squarely in the middle of it again. Claire got out, put the tote in her trunk, and parked. At 8:40, while she was presenting revised flooring costs to a medical office client, Daniel sent 3 texts. Where's Mom's bag? She had documents in there. This is beyond petty. Claire finished explaining why a terrazzo change would delay installation, answered 2 questions about lead times, and waited until the call ended. In my trunk. It was blocking my parking space. His reply arrived immediately. You knew it was there to hold the spot. Yes, that was all she wrote. At lunch, Claire took the tote to Luis at the security desk. Lost property, she said. He looked at the bag, then at her. Today's tie had little green bicycles. Found where? Space B17. Again? You've seen it before? Luis pulled a form from a drawer. Different shifts leave notes. Bags, folding chair one time. Orange cone. Claire stared at him. An orange cone? Small one. When? He turned the form toward her. Date and contact number here. He was not going to discuss the notes, and she respected him for it even while wanting to reach over the desk and read them upside down. She filled out the form. Vivian called it too. I understand you turned my personal belongings over to security. I turned in a bag left in the garage. You knew it was mine. Yes. My financial papers were in it. Then you shouldn't use it as a traffic cone. Vivian breathed out slowly. I am trying very hard not to respond to your tone. Claire stood, and closed her office door. Through the glass wall, her coworker Marcy glanced up, saw Claire's face, and immediately looked back at her monitor. "You left the bag behind your car on purpose," Claire said. "Daniel told me that was the best way to let people know the space was occupied." It wasn't occupied. It was reserved. It is already reserved. For me, that is a very lonely way to think about a home. Claire sat down. Vivian could do that. Drop a sentence into a conversation and make it sound embroidered. "Pick up your bag from security," Claire said. "I have an appointment." "Then Daniel can pick it up." "He's working." "So am I." Vivian went quiet. Claire expected another polished rebuke. Instead, Vivian said, "Daniel told me you offered that room when he mentioned my rent increase." He lied. The word landed so plainly that neither of them seemed prepared for it. Vivian recovered first. "He may have misunderstood you. He said we'd discussed it. We hadn't. He doesn't lie. He told you the garage pass was a spare. It was on his house keys. That could have been a mistake. He told you I had a building allowance. I didn't ask to inspect your finances. No, you just accepted them." Vivian hung up. At home that evening, Claire opened 6 months of bank statements. She highlighted every payment she did not recognize. The storage unit was the largest, but not the only one. There were recurring charges for Vivian's grocery delivery membership, 4 payments to a handyman in her old apartment, and a $100 deposit to reserve the condominium lounge. Claire clicked the lounge charge. Retirement dinner, V. Hale appeared in the memo. Daniel came through the door while she was still staring at it. He dropped his keys into the bowl. The home tag rang against the ceramic. "Mom says you accused me of lying." "Did you tell her I offered the guest room?" "I told her you'd said we should help." "When?" "Several times. Helping and moving in are different verbs." He took off his jacket. "She's not moving in permanently. She's not moving in temporarily. We'll revisit that when you're calmer." Claire turned the laptop toward him. "What's the lounge deposit?" His eyes moved over the screen. "Her retirement dinner." "When were you going to tell me?" "I did tell you." "You said we were having dinner with her." "We are. In the lounge, apparently." "She has 30 people coming, maybe 35. Claire leaned back. "Who is cooking?" Daniel walked to the refrigerator and opened it. "We talked about doing a buffet." "No, you talked about my braised chicken in front of your mother, and I said it takes 2 days. You said it was better on the second day. That isn't an offer to cook for 35 people." He took out a container, sniffed it, and put it back. "I'll help." "You leave the kitchen whenever onions start." "They destroy my eyes." "Then your suffering will make the meal meaningful." "Claire, come on. You're a great host. People love your food." It was the compliment he used when he wanted labor to feel like a personality trait. "Cancel it," she said. The invitations went out. "Then hire a caterer. We can't justify that expense." "You justified 6 months of secret storage payments." His face hardened. "My mother has spent her whole life showing up for people. I wanted one night where she didn't have to arrange everything herself." "That sounds lovely. You should give her that." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I won't be cooking." Daniel shut the refrigerator. "You'll let her be humiliated to prove a point?" "I won't be standing over 6 burners to protect you from admitting you volunteered me." He walked out. 10 minutes later, Claire heard his low voice in the bedroom. She caught only pieces through the door. "She's dug in." "No, I'm handling it." "Of course, we're still doing it." In the morning, Claire transferred her paycheck deposit to her personal account. She calculated her share of utilities and groceries and set an automatic monthly transfer for that amount into household checking. Then she called the bank and removed the household account as overdraft protection for her personal account. Daniel remained a joint owner. She could not simply erase him. She could stop feeding every surprise he placed there. She printed the statements, circled the storage charges, and left the pages beneath his coffee mug. At 10, her phone lit up. "Did you change the deposit?" "Yes." Without discussing it with me? I'm still funding my agreed share. I'm not funding expenses you hide. He called twice. She declined both times. At noon, Vivian called. Claire almost let it go to voicemail, then answered. What have you done to the account? Good afternoon to you, too. The storage payment was rejected. It was scheduled before the monthly transfer cleared. Daniel said it was covered. Then Daniel can cover it. This is my property we're talking about. Yes. The facility adds a fee if payment is late. Then I'd call Daniel. This isn't how married people behave. Claire looked through the glass wall at Marcy, who was eating soup over a set of plumbing plans. Married people don't create secret subscriptions for their mothers, Claire said. It wasn't a subscription. It happened monthly. That does not make it a subscription. Despite herself, Claire smiled. Actually, Vivian, that is the main thing that makes it a subscription. Vivian hung up again. That Friday, Daniel hired a caterer. Claire knew because a woman named Patrice called to confirm access to the lounge kitchen. Daniel had given Patrice Claire's number and said Claire was coordinating the event. I'm not, Claire said. There was a pause. I have you listed as on-site contact. I won't be on-site. Mr. Mercer said you were a resident and could sign us in. He's also a resident. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, I'll contact him. Daniel arrived home furious. Patrice thinks we're disorganized. You are disorganized. She added a building access fee because I have to meet them. That sounds accurate. You could take 10 minutes to open a door. You could take 10 minutes to open a door. I have to pick up Mom. She has a car. She's not driving to her own retirement party. Why? Because she wants a glass of champagne. Then send a car. Everything is money to you now. Claire was rinsing a plate. She turned off the water. No, money is money. A parking space is a parking space. A key is a key. You turn all of them into love when you want me to surrender them. Daniel's anger faltered. For a moment, he looked tired rather than righteous. She's scared. Of what? Of becoming irrelevant. Claire dried her hands. There it was, something true. Offered late and badly. Daniel sat at the kitchen island. She left that job after 27 years. People said they'd keep in touch. They haven't. She gave up the apartment because it felt stupid paying that rent when she doesn't even know what her days are for. That doesn't mean she moves into our guest room. I know. It was the first time he had said it. Claire sat across from him. He rubbed the indentation where his wedding ring pressed into his finger. I thought if I could make the next few months easy, she'd find her footing. You can't make something easy for her by making it invisible to me. I should have told you about the storage. And the parking. Yes, and the dinner. He gave a weak smile. The dinner got away from me. 35 people don't sneak up on you. 32 now. Claire laughed, and Daniel did too. The sound loosened something between them. He reached across the counter and covered her hand. I'll fix it, he said. She wanted to believe him badly enough that she hated herself a little. The retirement dinner was the following Thursday. Claire attended as a guest. She wore a blue dress, carried a bottle of wine, and did not arrive early. Daniel had forgotten the building required protective mats beneath catering equipment. He spent 40 minutes borrowing flattened cardboard from the recycling room while Patrice supervised with open contempt. Vivian entered on his arm wearing silver silk and a radiant smile that dimmed when she saw Claire was not arranging plates. You look lovely, Claire said. So do you. Vivian's gaze moved toward the buffet. Very relaxed. I am. Dinner was good. Daniel made a warm speech about Vivian's instinct for making every person feel expected. Claire watched Vivian absorb the words with her chin lifted and understood briefly why Daniel kept building stages for her. Vivian seemed to become more solid beneath attention. Then the building manager approached Claire near the coffee urn. Naomi Park was a compact woman with blunt bangs and an ability to make even cocktail clothes look administrative. I've emailed you twice, Naomi said. I haven't seen anything. Check your owner portal. There's a parking balance under review. Vivian's $300 charge? Naomi frowned. It's more than that. How much more? The system consolidated multiple entries this afternoon. Across the room, Daniel was cutting his mother's cake. Vivian laughed when he got frosting on his cuff. Naomi lowered her voice. The current balance is $1,860. Claire stared at her. That's impossible. It's tied to your unit, Naomi said, and somebody reported the credential as lost. Claire kept her voice low. Who reported it lost? Naomi glanced toward the party where Daniel was handing Vivian the knife for the ceremonial first slice. I can't discuss credential activity in the lounge. You brought it up in the lounge. I warned you about a balance attached to your unit. That's different. Naomi took a business card from her purse and wrote on the back, Come to my office tomorrow, 9:30. Can you at least tell me which credential? Not without opening the access history. Then open it. Naomi capped her pen. Tomorrow, Claire. A burst of laughter rose near the cake table. Daniel had smeared frosting on Vivian's nose. She swatted his hand away, delighted. Claire looked down at the number on the card. $1,860. Naomi squeezed her arm before walking away. It was the first affectionate thing Claire had ever seen her do. Daniel found Claire stacking abandoned coffee cups near the end of the party. I hired people for that, he said. They left 20 minutes ago. Then leave the cups. I'm talking to Naomi in the morning. His face changed before he could stop it. Claire put down the stack. You know about the balance. I got an email this afternoon. Who reported the pass lost? Can we not do this here? You chose here when you didn't tell me. Vivian approached carrying a foil-wrapped piece of cake. You're both making that face. What face? Daniel asked. The one that tells everyone else to pretend they can't hear you. Claire held up Naomi's card. There's $1,860 in garage charges tied to the unit. Vivian's smile disappeared. For my car? Naomi wouldn't say. Oh, for heaven's sake, Daniel said. Of course it's her car. We know there was a system issue. You reported the pass lost. I reported it missing because I couldn't find it. It was on your key ring this morning. I reported it before this morning. Then you found it and gave it back to her. I forgot I'd reported it. Claire stared at him. Vivian looked from one to the other. The gate has been opening. That doesn't mean the pass is valid, Daniel said. These systems take time to update. You told me it was fine, Vivian said. It should have been. Claire heard the distinction settle between them. Daniel took Naomi's card from Claire's hand and slipped it into his jacket pocket. I'll meet with her. She asked to meet with me. The unit is in your name, so everything becomes your problem on paper. That doesn't mean you need to handle it personally. I think paper may be the only place anyone tells me the truth. Vivian looked down at the cake in her hands. Daniel gave Claire the card back. Not tonight. On the way upstairs, 2 guests thanked Claire for the evening. She corrected the first one and told her Daniel had arranged it. The woman smiled as if Claire were being modest. The second guest praised the chicken, and Claire said, Patrice at Bellwether Catering. Clearly enough for Patrice's name to stick. Inside the condo, Vivian set the leftover cake in the refrigerator. I left my overnight bag in the guest room, she said. Claire turned. Why? Daniel suggested I shouldn't drive after champagne. You had 1 glass 3 hours ago. 2. I'll call you a car. You can get yours tomorrow. And go where? To your apartment. Vivian closed the refrigerator door carefully. I gave the keys back this afternoon. Back to whom? The landlord. Claire looked at Daniel. He loosened his tie. Her lease ended. Today? Technically yesterday. So, when you asked whether she could stay here, you already knew she had nowhere else to go. I knew she had options. Vivian drew herself upright. I have options. Good, Claire said. Choose one. Daniel stepped between them without making it look like he was stepping between them. It's after 10. She's staying tonight. This is my home. It's mine, too. The words were true in the ordinary life of their marriage and more complicated on paper. Daniel had lived there for 4 years. He received mail there. His name was on the building's resident list, the utilities, and the parking addendum for his access pass. Claire could not erase him because the deed predated him, and she did not want to become someone who used legal ownership like a weapon in the middle of an argument. Daniel knew that. He also knew she knew it. "One night," Claire said. Vivian carried her cake plate toward the guest room. Daniel followed Claire into the bedroom. "Thank you. That wasn't for you. You're angry. You're still doing the right thing. Don't turn my unwillingness to put your mother on the street at 10:30 into approval. She won't be here long. Give me a date. We'll find something." "That's not a date." He began unbuttoning his shirt. "You can't demand certainty from everybody. I'm demanding a checkout time." Daniel slept beside her that night. At 2 in the morning, Claire woke to Vivian moving boxes in the hallway. Cardboard whispered against the wall, followed by the soft turn of the guest room latch. At 9:30, Claire sat across from Naomi in the management office. Naomi printed the account summary, but not the access ledger. "Why can't I see the entries?" Claire asked. "Because one credential is registered to another adult resident." "My husband." Naomi's expression remained neutral. "I didn't say that. How many other adult residents are registered to my unit?" Naomi tapped the summary. "I can give you dates, charge categories, and the vehicle plate because the balance is currently posted to the owner account. The board has to approve a formal ledger review if another resident disputes responsibility." "Daniel disputes it?" "He called at 8 this morning. Of course he had." "What did he say?" "That the charges resulted from a guest access misunderstanding and that you had recently changed financial and household arrangements without consulting him." Claire felt heat move up her neck. "What does my bank account have to do with a garage pass?" "Nothing that I can see. But he told you anyway. He asked the board to treat it as a domestic dispute rather than a credential violation." Naomi pushed the summary across the desk. 14 entries. Some lasted 40 minutes. 3 were overnight. 1 stretched from Friday morning until Sunday evening. Every line carried a manual review fee, a plate mismatch fee, or both. Claire recognized the dates. On 2, she had paid to park hourly while Vivian occupied B17. On 3, Claire had been at the office all day. 1 was the weekend conference when she had left her own car at a hotel 12 miles away. "I want the ledger reviewed." Naomi handed her a form. "Submit this. The next building meeting is Thursday." "That's 6 days. You can pay the balance now and dispute it afterward." "No. Then it remains on the unit." "What happens? If it stays unpaid, late fees begin next month. Further steps require board notice." Claire filled out the form. Naomi watched her sign. "You should know Daniel requested that his lost pass report be withdrawn." "When?" 6 minutes after I told him the charges had consolidated." Claire pressed the pen so hard it tore the paper. "Can I get another form?" Naomi slid one over. When Claire returned to the garage, Vivian's Lexus was stopped at the exit gate. The arm remained down. Vivian leaned out her window, stabbing the call button. Louise stood beside the security booth with a clipboard. "I've explained it 3 times, Vivian said when she saw Claire. "Your garage deactivated the pass." "It's not my garage." "Could you tell him I live here?" Claire looked at the stacked boxes visible through the Lexus's rear window. "You don't." Vivian recoiled. Louise kept his eyes on the clipboard. "I can release the vehicle manually once the driver signs acknowledgement." "I am not signing a confession," Vivian said. "It says you received notice that the credential is inactive. Daniel said it was reactivated." Louise looked at Claire. "Call Daniel," she said. Vivian's voice sharpened. "He's in a meeting." "So was I the first time you took my space?" "I have an appointment." Louise offered the clipboard again. "Signature goes here." Vivian signed. The gate lifted. She drove out without looking at Claire. By the time Claire reached the condo, Daniel was waiting in the kitchen. "You left her trapped downstairs." Security released her. You stood there and humiliated her. She had to sign a notice. She was crying. She wasn't when she drove away. His phone was on the counter, screen glowing with a long text from Vivian. Claire could see only the beginning. I have never been treated. Daniel picked it up. You got what you wanted. What do you think I wanted? To prove you have control. Over my parking space? Over all of it. The house. The money. Whether my mother is allowed to sit down without filling out a form. Claire opened the cabinet and took out a glass. Her hand shook against the shelf. Daniel saw it. His tone softened. This is what I've been trying to tell you. You don't see how intimidating you are when you start documenting people. I started documenting things because you lie when I don't. I made choices you disagree with. You told Vivian I offered her a room. I interpreted something you said. You reported your pass lost while she was using it. I lost track of it. You found it. Yes. You kept giving it to her. I thought I had fixed the report. You called Naomi before my meeting and told her about our bank account. I was explaining context. You were trying to make numbers sound like a mood. Daniel looked away. Claire filled the glass and drank half of it. I'm putting this in writing, she said. He laughed without humor. Of course you are. She wrote the notice at the dining table. No threats, no accusations. Beginning immediately, she would not pay charges related to Vivian's vehicle, storage, events, groceries, deliveries, or personal expenses. Vivian could stay in the guest room through the following Friday while arranging other accommodations. No one else could use B17 without Claire's express permission. All building keys and passes had to remain with the resident to whom they were issued. She emailed it to Daniel and Vivian. Then she printed 2 copies and put one beneath Daniel's "Ask Me About Risotto" mug. Vivian returned after dark with her Lexus full of more boxes. She read the page while standing in the entryway. When she finished, she folded it once, then again. You make hospitality sound like a ceasefire agreement, she said. You moved in after I said no. My son invited me. My husband doesn't get to loan out my consent. Vivian's eyes flicked toward Daniel. He was holding her overnight bag, but he looked suddenly less like a rescuer than a man caught carrying evidence. Vivian took the bag from him. I'll be gone by Friday. Mom, you don't have to. I said, I'll be gone. She shut the guest room door. For 2 days, the condo became unnaturally polite. Vivian wiped the counters after every cup of coffee. Daniel took work calls from the bedroom. Claire parked in B17 and photographed her car there each morning, a habit she despised as soon as she formed it. On Sunday, she found Daniel sitting in the parked Lexus beside Vivian, both of them talking with their heads bent. The dashboard lights colored their faces blue. When Daniel came upstairs, he placed a printed email on the table. The condominium board had added the garage dispute to Thursday's meeting agenda. Daniel had submitted his own statement. He described the matter as a marital disagreement over a family accommodation, said Claire had abruptly withdrawn permission, and argued that the charges followed her attempt to restrict a previously shared pass. You're blaming me, Claire said. I'm giving context. You gave her the pass. You changed the rules. What rule lets your mother use something because you've decided I don't need it? Daniel touched the brass home tag on his keys. The rule where we act like a family, he said. Claire looked at the printed statement, then at the key he had carried into her condo 4 years ago. No, she said. That's the rule where I disappear. Daniel's fingers closed around the tag. That's dramatic. No, dramatic is promising someone a room you don't own and a parking space you don't use. I live here. You live here with me. That was supposed to be the important part. He opened his mouth, but the guest room door clicked. Vivian stood in the hallway wearing a robe over her clothes, her purse already on her shoulder. Would either of you like to know what I think? She asked. Daniel let go of his keys. Mom, go back to bed. I wasn't in bed. Then go back to whatever you were doing. Vivian looked at Claire. He told me you wanted me nearby. He said you worried about me being alone after retirement. I said we should invite you to dinner more often. That was it? That was the conversation. Vivian turned to Daniel. He spread his hands. It was the spirit of the conversation. The spirit, Vivian repeated. You were miserable in that apartment. She knew that. She did not know I was leaving it. She knew the rent went up. Vivian's face hardened. That is not the same sentence. Claire watched Daniel realize that one of his favorite methods sounded different when someone else used it against him. I was trying to help, he said. Vivian laughed softly. You keep saying that as if the rest of us are confused about your intentions. She went back into the guest room. Daniel picked up his statement from the table. She'll cool off. Claire looked at him. You think that's what just happened? He folded the paper in half. I think everyone is exhausted. For the next 3 days, he behaved like a man waiting for weather to pass. He replaced a burned-out bulb over the stove. He bought groceries without asking Claire for a list, though he came home with 3 kinds of mustard and no coffee. He cooked risotto on Wednesday and did not mention that she had once bought him the correct pan. Vivian stayed mostly in the guest room. Her boxes disappeared from the hallway one by one, but Claire never saw them leave. The Lexus was gone during the day and returned after Claire had parked in B-17. Vivian used the hourly level. On Thursday afternoon, Claire printed the original invoice, the consolidated summary, her parking receipts, and Daniel's written statement. She put them in a plain blue folder. Daniel watched from the kitchen. You're really going in there with a file. You submitted a statement. I'm trying to resolve it. So am I. This could be embarrassing for Mom. Then you shouldn't have put her name in your statement 7 times. She was the guest. She was the person you gave the pass to. Daniel leaned against the island. If you go in determined to punish us, people will see that. Claire slid the last receipt into the folder. I'm going in determined not to pay $1,860 for something I didn't do. It's still our money. No, it was never our decision. He looked toward the entryway. His keys were in the bowl. Claire's were in her hand. I love that you took care of things, he said. The sudden honesty stopped her. Daniel continued quieter. When I moved in, everything worked. Bills got paid. The refrigerator had food. You knew which form the building needed and which plumber wasn't going to rip us off. It felt like I could breathe. Claire waited. I didn't think helping Mom would feel different to you. You didn't want to find out. His eyes dropped. Claire tucked the folder beneath her arm. That's the part I can't get past. The meeting took place in the same lounge where Vivian's retirement dinner had been held. The cardboard mats were gone, but one strip of silver tape remained stuck beneath the coffee station. 14 residents sat in folding chairs facing 2 joined tables. Naomi occupied the center with a laptop, a stack of agendas, and the expression of someone already regretting every human being in the room. Luis sat at the end beside a smaller laptop connected to the garage system. His tie was navy with tiny silver keys. Mr. Feldman from 5A sat in the front row. When Claire entered, he looked at the blue folder and sighed as though she had brought a marching band. Daniel arrived with Vivian. He had worn a jacket. Vivian wore charcoal slacks and a red scarf Claire had given her 2 Christmases ago. She sat beside Daniel but kept her purse on her lap. The garage dispute came after a discussion about package room shelving and before a vote on lobby plants. Naomi read the item in a flat voice. Unit 4C is disputing $1,860 in parking charges associated with 14 entries by an unregistered vehicle. The owner has requested a formal access ledger review. Another registered resident of the unit has submitted a statement characterizing the issue as a temporary family parking accommodation. Mr. Feldman raised his hand without waiting to be recognized. Is this the Champagne Lexus? Naomi closed her eyes briefly. Vehicle details are part of the review. It blocked Claire's spot, he said. I got stuck behind them having a summit. Daniel turned in his chair. It never blocked the lane. It blocked conversation, which was good enough for me. A few people laughed. Daniel stood. He did it smoothly, as if the room had invited him. My mother recently retired and was between apartments. She needed somewhere close to park while we helped with a few practical things. My wife initially agreed that we should support her, then changed her mind without warning. There was confusion over which pass was active, and the garage system produced fees that no reasonable person would expect. Claire stared at the back of his jacket. He continued, "This should never have become a building issue. It's a disagreement between spouses about what we owe family." A woman near the aisle nodded. $1,800 does seem insane. "It is," Claire said. The woman turned. "Then why not work it out at home?" "I tried." Daniel gave the room a rueful smile. Claire likes documentation. There it was, the warm little joke that made everyone his confidant. "She keeps better track of parking than affection," he said. Mr. Feldman made a sound that could have been a cough. Claire felt the humiliation arrive physically, a hot line across her chest. Daniel had often teased her about lists, receipts, labeled pantry shelves. In private, he called those things the architecture of his happiness. Here, he made them proof that she was incapable of love unless it came with a confirmation number. Another resident raised her hand. "I don't understand why someone can't use an empty space during the day." "It isn't empty," Claire said. "I use it." "But you said you work from home." "Some days." "Couldn't you be flexible?" "I was sent to hourly parking in my own building." The first woman shook her head. "This is starting to sound petty." Daniel sat down slowly, not looking at Claire. Vivian stared at the silver tape beneath the coffee station. Naomi said, "Let's keep comments focused on the charges." Claire opened her folder, then closed it again. She could explain the guest room, the storage payments, the caterer, the canvas tote. She could describe the way Daniel had placed the bill through her car window before she had even understood why his mother held his keys. Every detail was true. Together, in that room, they would sound like the prosecution Daniel had accused her of building. So Claire looked at Luis. "Please open the access ledger." Daniel turned toward her. "We know Mom's car was there." "I'm not disputing her plate. I'm asking which credential opened the gate." Naomi nodded to Luis. He entered the unit number. A table filled his screen. 14 entries, he said. "Same credential on all 14. "Can you check the pass owner?" Claire asked. Luis clicked the credential number. Daniel stood again. "That pass is shared household property." Luis looked at Naomi, who said, "Read the registration field." "Resident Daniel Mercer," he said. No one spoke. Luis opened a scanned form. Credential H-204, issued to Daniel Mercer. Parking addendum signed electronically at initial resident registration. Claire heard Vivian's bracelet knock against the metal arm of her chair. Naomi asked, "Was H-204 reported lost?" Luis opened another window. "Yes, the report was submitted by Daniel Mercer at 8:12 Monday morning. Credential activity continued after the report." "I found it," Daniel said. Naomi looked over her laptop. The report wasn't withdrawn. "I thought I had withdrawn it." "You requested withdrawal after the charges consolidated," Claire said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because that was when I realized the system hadn't updated." Luis scrolled. "There are 5 entries after the lost pass report. The plate reader identifies the same Lexus." Vivian turned to Daniel. "You knew it was reported lost when you gave it back to me." "I believed the garage had fixed it." "You told me it was a spare." "It functioned as a spare." "It has your name on it," she said. Daniel's voice dropped. "Mom, please." Naomi asked Luis to display the responsibility clause from the addendum. He read it without emphasis. Charges caused by use, transfer, loss, or failure to secure a credential remained the responsibility of the resident to whom the credential was issued. Guest use required registration before entry. Daniel began to object, but Naomi held up one hand. "The ledger does not support assigning these charges to Claire's resident pass or guest account. It shows they were caused by pass H-204, issued to Daniel." The ledger named his pass. Claire looked at the blue folder on her lap. She did not need to open it. Daniel tried once more. The vehicle belonged to my mother. And you gave her the pass, Vivian said. He looked at her as if she had changed sides in the middle of a sentence. Vivian's face had gone pale, but her voice was steady. You said Claire had changed something in the garage system. You said that was why I was being charged. She refused the accommodation. After you made it without telling her. Mom, you let me stand at that gate and think she had done it to punish me. Daniel glanced around the room. The audience he had assembled through charm and suggestion now made him visibly uncomfortable. Naomi returned to procedure. The board voted to remove the balance from Claire's owner dispute line and reclassify it under Daniel's credential responsibility. His garage privileges would remain suspended until he arranged payment. The false lost pass report would receive a separate administrative review. The woman who had called Claire petty studied her agenda. Mr. Feldman raised his hand. Can we do the plants now? In the elevator, Daniel pressed 4 and stood with his back to Claire. Vivian remained in the lobby. Are you coming? He asked as the doors began to close. No, she said. He caught the doors. Your things are upstairs. I'll collect them when you aren't there. Don't be ridiculous. Vivian's mouth bent into a bitter approximation of her usual smile. Apparently, I've been letting you define ridiculous for me. She stepped back. The doors closed. Upstairs, Daniel walked into the kitchen and pulled off his jacket. You enjoyed that. Claire set the blue folder on the island. No. You got exactly what you wanted. I wanted you to tell the truth before security had to. It was a parking pass. It was whatever you needed it to be. A spare when you gave it away. Lost when the charges appeared. Shared property when your name came up. My responsibility when the bill arrived. He paced to the window. My mother turned on me to save herself $300. She offered to pay that first bill. You believe her now? I believe you both when the facts support you. He laughed once. There she is. Claire watched him rub the pale band beneath his wedding ring. If the ledger had named my pass, she asked, would you have stood up for me? Daniel looked out at the neighboring tower. She waited. His silence answered with more care than he had shown all month. Vivian came for her boxes on Friday, while Daniel was at work. She had rented a furnished studio for 6 weeks and arranged for the storage facility to deliver the rest later. At the door, she placed Claire's spare key in her palm. He gave me this before the parking pass, Vivian said. Claire closed her fingers around it. I should have asked you. Yes. I wanted to believe him. I know. Vivian looked past her toward the guest room. Not because he's convincing, because his version made room for me. That was as close to an apology as she could manage. Claire accepted it without pretending it was more. Vivian paid the original $312 charge connected to her overnight stay directly to the garage. She left the remaining balance to Daniel. Her last box was labeled Winter Shoes. After she carried it out, Claire stood in the empty guest room and understood that getting the room back did not feel like getting the marriage back. Daniel tried apologies in several forms: flowers, dinner, a promise to find a counselor. Then blame. Vivian had pressured him. The garage system was predatory. Claire had forced a private problem into public. Each version lasted until Claire asked the same question. Would you have told me if the ledger hadn't? He never answered. Claire met with a family attorney who did not promise simplicity. She met with a real estate agent who warned that selling would mean repairs, showings, paperwork, and abandoning an interest rate Claire would probably never see again. Keeping the condo was the smarter financial choice. She listed it anyway. Daniel moved into a one-bedroom apartment farther from downtown. It had street parking. The night he left, he placed his keys in the ceramic bowl. I guess this was always yours, he said. Claire looked at the brass home tag. I thought it was ours. So did I. He took his suitcase and left the tag behind. The condo sold after the second price reduction. On Claire's final morning there, B17 was empty except for pale tire marks and a dark square where Vivian's canvas tote had kept the concrete clean. Claire drove to her smaller apartment and parked in the single space included with it. Upstairs, she put her new keys in a shallow blue dish by the door. Then she threaded the old brass home tag onto the ring. It struck the dish with the same clear note she remembered. This time, Claire was the only one who got to decide what it opened.